因为教室也不是那么的大。但是我们在线上有几十个家庭啊，大概能有50多个家庭啊，所以说那个还是想请这个我们的嘉宾们啊，能够讲话的时候声音，当然这个不需要我提醒，你们全都是 debater 啊，就是那个小麦克风一定要注意啊，因为线上的家庭是通过那个小麦克风才能听到你们的声音啊。然后呢，我先简单的说一下，Leading Tomorrow 是一个 non-profit organization，那我们的 sponsor 就是 Link the Key 啊，大家可能也就是感觉到了，我每年呢组织很多这种非盈利的公益性的活动啊，都是因为我是 Leading Tomorrow 的最主要的负责人嘛，对吧？但是如果没有这个 Link the Key 的支持，那我们就没有经费，我们也没有场地，对吧？所以呢，还是要就是感谢他们的大力的支持。然后我们这个 Debate Club 呢也成立了1年半了啊，我们这个 Mississauga 这个 location 的 Debate Club 一直坚持的都很好。那这个就离不开我们的这些11和12年级的这些个 leaders student leaders和这个 judges。那我们呢2个 location 加在一起呢，我们目前有8个 leaders 兼主力的 judging 主力裁判啊。那这边呢，这个 location 呢，12年级的有几个孩子，他们是 Andy Jerry Chris Rebecca 这都是12年级的孩子再有半年就要进入到大学了。那我们这边呢还有几个11年级的，就是文琪和这个Anthony。然后北约克的 location 呢，2个 co-president 是12年级的这个 Sunny 和11年级的 Angela 他们一直都坚持的很好，就是这个常年的，就是为我们低年级的小孩子们组织练习每次呢都来分组，早早的来分组来选这个 motion，带着大家打一场比赛，然后给出非常有价值的这个反馈和建议，所以我们的学员们呢，就是进步的都比较快这都离不开这些个 student leaders judge 的这个努力。那么我们今天把他们请到这里来呢，就是想让他们分享一下他们从小到大学习debating 的这个过程心得呀，有什么建议呀，自己有什么比较好的故事呀分享给线上和线下的这些个学生和家庭，他们完全是用英文讲的哦。那然后呢？正式开始之前呢，我也想请我们的刘校长没有 Link the Key 的支持，就没有我们 Leading Tomorrow 的这个 club 的存在让我们刘校长简单的讲2句话，然后我们还为我们这一届的8位 leader准备了这个奖状，奖励给他们优秀的 leadership 和他们优秀的 judging 为我们的这个 club， 这是 regional 的 award， 你们可以用它来去申请你的大学，巴拉巴拉巴拉 ，OK，然后给每个孩子准备了一个奖状，同时我们也为每一个 leader 准备了一个书店的礼物卡，一点小小的心意校长。
谢谢。那个，我本来我今儿没想说话，然后潘老师说你不行，你得说2句。其实我真的没想，我也不知道该说啥。我呢，我应该可能我对我自己这个 speaking 还通常来讲还比较自信，但今天在他们这些面前，我其实有紧张，你知道。But you guys are master of speaking，所以跟他们面前我是有点紧张。Anthony 也在笑，OK，我想先谢谢潘老师了，就是我们这个debate club 如果没有潘老师，那最早其实是他的想法，那我们只是在旁边做了一些编外的一些工作那最主要其实是潘老师，最早是他的想法，然后他慢慢把这个想法一步一步的带到今天。当然，你们前面我们的这几位，我们的 club 里面的最骨干的几个同学，今天我们来了8位所以基本上其实你像文琪住的非常远，Rebecca 也是，他们2位基本上1个小时左右的车程要来参加我们这个 club，而且 不是为他们自己，更多的是为这些younger junior debaters 来帮助他们。那学 debate 实际上，我到今天为止我还能记得到你们当中的几个人最早的时候来的时候那个样子很小小的，然后有一点点像我今天这样紧张，然后站在台上，甚至什么脸也红了，什么手也抖了。那今天成长成今天这个样子，所以我们看到他们的变化。其实你们当中，包括我们今天线上很多孩子，可以从他们身上可以学到很多东西。那 debate 我自己认为，其实我觉得有2件事情。第一个是你的 speaking communication skills，就是你怎么去讲话讲话有很多不同的方法。第二是你的 content，就是你的 knowledge base，你能 build 一个非常有效的一个完整的一个知识结构对他们将来不仅仅是上大学、申请大学，你们将来的 career，你们将来的your future life 都会有很多帮助了。所以他们好像觉得我讲的时间太长了。我 I'll stop right here. Okay. Who's going to be speaking first? OK， 好，
我们俩
好吧，这样快一点啊。我们不搞这些这么多形式的东西了我们就直接。Rebecca，thank you，thank you。Mary，thank you，and Chris。
来，校长，你把这4个卡片给他们4个。来，感谢，非常感谢。
Anthony 多好，自己直接拿走。OK， who's going to be speaking first？ 文琪 ，come on， 文琪。
All right, so hi everyone. My name is Wency. Today I'll be starting off the long list of speakers that are here to share with you. A couple things that I'll talk about. Firstly, an introduction to my whole debate experience, some personal benefits that I've seen, some observations I've made throughout my journey, why you should do debate, and then finally some advice. I know it sounds like a lot, but I'll try my best to keep it brief. So first, an introduction to my experience. I did do some smaller tournaments prior, but it was really the summer before my grade 10th year where I started taking debate a little more seriously. My first national competition then was QSID, where I broke junior finals. And then ever since then, I've broken or top spoken at a couple other BP tournaments, and I've listed some of them above. As I'll mention later, however, I believe that awards and how you do are not the most important part that you can take away from debate. I think this is an activity that offers something that is far deeper than how you do at tournaments. For one, personally, a lot of the competitive involvements that I've done or continue to do, like MUN, public speaking, mock trial, a lot of the skills all have their roots in debate. So in other terms, I think this is an activity that is a very important foundation for where you want to be, and it's definitely something that you do not want to miss out on during your high school life. So first then, some personal benefits that I've seen. I'm sure at least some of you guys probably relate to this, but I grew up as a very shy kid. I was dead silent outside, and then when I got home, I had a lot of pent-up energy, and I would find random bones to pick with my parents and just argue for the sake of it. So ultimately, they got like really sick of me, as they should, and then they enrolled me into debate class. I will note that the benefits that I've seen were not immediate. At first, I was really scared. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was going to embarrass myself. But I think something that's very important to note is that with debate, the improvements and the developments that you'll see in yourself will come with time and will come naturally. And I think this is a wait that is very worth it and really important for you to be patient for. Eventually, debate helped me in 2 main ways. First, it helped me overcome my fear of presenting, which has been very beneficial for school presentations, for social interactions, for speaking in places like this. And something else that quite surprised me was honing and improving my writing skills and my brainstorming ideas. I think naturally, when you expose yourself to more advanced debaters, you're able to absorb some of the more articulate or verbose vocabulary that will help you a lot in, for example, your academics, English class, essays, coming up with very creative ideas with a short amount of time, which I think are all very valuable skills and are quite transferable. And ultimately then as well, I think debate has also helped improve all of my improvisation skills, not needing to write out every single thing that I want to say word for word and be able to be in the moment, be present, and talk a lot and do some critical thinking as well. Okay, moving on then to my journey. What I've noticed, the biggest thing is that debate is not a linear progression. That is to say then that you're not going to constantly be on the rise and you're not going to constantly be on the decline. So for example, some of the smaller tournaments I did before CUSID, I absolutely bombed those tournaments. I did not do well at all. I honestly bottom tapped at a lot of them. And even after CUSID, I wasn't just getting award after award, and I also wasn't just losing like all over again. So I think ultimately, in simpler terms, debate is a very fluctuating activities. You're going to have a roller coaster of up and downs, of plateaus and of stagnations. I think that adds to the enrichment and to the beauty of the activity. And if I'm being completely transparent here, I would honestly say that I failed more times than I've succeeded. And so I want to talk a little bit why you should not be discouraged by this and why you should enter debate. I have two main parts here. First, the academic, I guess more so for the parents, and then also secondly, personal reasons as to why you should do it. So first with academic, I think with debate, you have this unique opportunity to access a lot of prestigious, a lot of national tournaments like Toronto, McGill, Queen's, even Harvard and UPenn. And I'm not here to like invalidate any other activities, but I've noticed that with DECA or mock trial, for example, you have to start very regional and work your way up to the larger and more national or international tournaments. With debate, you can just find a partner and like sign up for a lot of these tournaments. And I think this is good in two main ways. Firstly, you have a better chance at getting these national and prestigious awards, but also secondly, you're able to have a time to like expose yourself to top tier debaters and improve that way as well. Secondly, then, there's novice categories. So if you're worried about attending these like prestigious tournaments and worrying that you're going to be like absolutely destroyed by people who are better than you, I think first that's kind of inevitable. It's going to happen eventually. But also secondly, if you ever break into like quarters, semifinals, or if you do well individually in terms of speaker scores, you're often going to be put against other people that are novice. So if you're grade 9 or below, or if it's one of your like first tournaments, you're going to be put against or compared against people who are also beginners. So I think that evens out the playing field quite nicely. And then finally, I think debate broadens your horizons in a very enriching way. So first, you're going to be put on a side that you do not agree with. You're going to be put on back half, where your front half is going to run all of the arguments that you come up with. I think this is when debate becomes the most interesting, where you are able to put yourself to the challenge and think of ideas on the spot, and also realize that maybe the opposite side is not the most evil, it is not the worst thing to be a part of. I think overall, that will make you a much more open-minded person and much more tolerable in general. Secondly, then, debate covers a wide array of topics. So international relations, social justice, econ, these are all ideas that you need to be educated on. And it kind of forces you to keep up to date with both what's going on currently, what happened in the past, and what is likely going to happen in the future. And then in terms of some personal reasons that I think you should do debate, I think the friendships are a really big bonus. When I did MUN, for example, I really liked the thing. I really liked conferences and everything, but it was very individual and very like individualistic. So when like other delegates will like backstab me or betray me, maybe it was because I was like, I'm like a really petty person, but I just did not want to be friends with them after those tournaments. With debate, you and your partner are moving towards the same thing together. It's a team effort and you're able to put in like your collaboration skills. I think overall that creates a much more friendly and amiable environment for you to create easier connections with other people. Aside from like also questioning existing values and realizing that sometimes your opinion is not necessarily the one that trumps everybody else's, the traveling is a big plus to debate. I think you should all be very grateful that you're, well, at least trying to enter debate post-pandemic. Because I entered during COVID and it was all online tournament, which was fun. But then when I entered my first in-person tournament, which was like literally only last year, I think there's a huge difference. You're able to like stay overnight at hotels, be with friends, travel to Quebec, Montreal, like Boston or Pennsylvania. So I think traveling is a really big part of debate, and it makes it a very fun activity as well. And then finally, then to end off, some advice that I think are the most important. First, as I've already mentioned, awards and how you do are important, but I don't think they are the most important part that you can extract from debate. In fact, I think it's when you focus on what you've learned and how you can learn from your mistakes or any like embarrassments or humiliation, rather than how you did, I think that's when you are able to improve the most. And also, when you define a hobby through your results and your awards, I think that slowly erodes away your passion and your interest for that activity. And I think debate is definitely one of those activities that you do not want to lose interest for. Secondly, then, don't be scared of going against people who are better than you. There's always going to be someone that's better than you. And when you go against people who are more experienced, you're actually able to learn and absorb a lot more information. Their clever strategies, the way they talk, their style, that help you. Also, I think it's important to note that nobody is unbeatable. So when you enter a debate or a round with an objective and an open mind, I think ultimately you will surprise yourself with what you can accomplish. And then finally, and I wish I took this advice when I was newer to debate as well, especially if you are a beginner, learn to experiment with different speakers' positions, different styles, different partners, and ultimately choose what is best for you. And also don't be afraid of turning down a partner if you feel like you guys aren't going to work well together. I think this is all something that like you want to do the best, and you want to also ensure that your partner does the best as well. Overall, I hope that you do seriously consider joining debate. I think it's a very rewarding and foundational activity to participate in. And thank you for your time.
谢谢文琪。感谢文琪哈，我这里多说两句。文琪的家住得很远，他住在 Brantford，开到这里至少要在不堵车的情况下也要1个小时啊。但是他妈妈常年的坚持把这个孩子送到这里面送到我们这边来学习。所以有的时候我们家长也可以反思一下，就是说有的时候你找各种各样的借口，什么路远啊、天气不好啊、今天 missing 课，明天又怎么着了。那你想一想，这个妈妈她怎么就能做到这一点？而且那个北约课那个时候2个 judge 期末考试，或者是有 school trip 的时候，缺 judge 的时候，我们这边要派人过去支援。文琪是第一个站出来的，他妈妈开了2个小时的车，从 Brantford 下班开了2个半小时，因为是 rush hour。开到北约课去给北约课的孩子们做 judge， 我每想到这件事情我都非常的感动，所以我们给文琪的妈妈鼓鼓掌吧，那个是他妈妈，非常感谢啊，非常感谢啊。好了，下一位是来上来，钟老师要先照个照片吗？要不关灯了，你那个武器比较先进哈，好嘞。
Gotta set a timer.
职业习惯还 set timer。
All right. Okay, first of all, I'm very grateful to Linky and Leading Tomorrow to just give me this opportunity. And I think it's crazy that they would take a chance on me. After all, I only started debating like 1 year ago. And I really need to say thanks to Linky being one of my main institutions that has really guided me and brought me like to where I am today. And I definitely wouldn't be here without Linky, especially like my first ever coach, Matt. He was such an amazing teacher. He's the reason why I even stayed in debate and why I enjoyed it so much. I think I also have to thank like the older debate club leaders like Andy and Rebecca, who actually were there teaching me how to debate and basically judging me every week, which is how I even got better in the first place. And I don't think I would be here without all these opportunities, feedback, and advice. And so to get into what I'm going to tell you today, I started debate just a year ago. And even then, I had never done anything public speaking related at all. I was terrified and still am of giving presentations right now. And I still don't know what the perfect way to give a debate speech might be. But I think that between then and now, I've spent a lot of time trying to get better. And I've spent a lot of times like struggling and failing, but from which I think I've learned a lot. So hi, my name's Anthony. I'm a grade 11 IB student at White Oak Secondary School. And this is going to be my debate journey, I guess. But hey, I'm going to start by maybe just going over some things that I've done, right? Like some achievements just to establish what, like, yeah. I've not done that much in terms of like length. I've only had the opportunity really to go to McGill once because I've only been debating for so long, from which I was like grand finalist. Otherwise, there's just Western Fall where I was third speaker, and Halton regionals, which we were second. Otherwise, there's not that many crazy successes because, well, yeah. I think I'm going to start with just where I began, because the first time I really gave a speech was only back in the summer before grade 10. The first time I was in maths class, I was uncertain what to say. I probably panicked. Actually, I did panic and probably only gave a 30-second speech saying some random thing about zoos. And ultimately, it was pretty bad. And the thing is, I'm surprised I made it through, right? I'm surprised I didn't give up, but I'm glad I didn't. I'm glad that I stayed with debate and gave it up as many tries as I can. Oh, I'm so glad I'm not sending in the light. I couldn't see for like 30 seconds. Anyways, I'm so glad that like I had that opportunity to realize what debate meant to me and what it was like. And I'd also like to further say thanks to how Matt guided me as like a debater, because even if I didn't learn how to like win every round, I became a lot more passionate about debate because of Matt, because of the way he taught, because of the ways we had fun activities and were able to develop our skills as debaters, but also just as public speakers and people. And ultimately, that's what really guided and brought in that passion towards debate that I have now. So at this point, I don't think my first ever tournament went very well. I don't think my first 10 tournaments went well. I think that over the first maybe 3-4 months that I was a debater, I think I sucked a lot. And I think that's true for a lot of people. And if it's not for you, congratulations, you're probably like a W debater. But I'm just saying that it takes a lot of time to become good at debate. And yet I tried to get good in 1 year. I started very late and I really wanted to improve because I wanted to see what it was like to be better at debate, see what the higher rooms were like, and try to test myself intellectually, right? And so that's ultimately what drove me to want to improve at debate. But I don't think this will ever be a linear journey. And to all the debaters who are starting out now, please don't get upset, or please don't look at yourself worse or down if you don't succeed. I want to bring up this graph, and I know that like math is intimidating, but if you look at this, it's not a straight line. It's not a direct growth. Every time I go up, I also go down back again. I don't think there's like any area where I'm only going up consistently, because there's ultimately always going to be times where you become better just to get worse because your next tournament is harder, because you choose to go against harder debaters. And I think that this is crucial because I see a lot of people that I know who are upset that they aren't performing as well as before. My debate partner, who is like pretty good at debate, is always questioning whether or not she should keep going because her performance isn't growing linearly. But that's okay. It's supposed to go up and down. It's supposed to not be easy. And it's because of the struggles that you actually become better. I'd also like to point out that I kind of just don't care about the parts that are going up. Those tournaments don't matter as much as the tournaments where the like averages are lower, where I fail to become a good debater. Those are the tournaments you look at, you reflect on, and actually think about why you did badly. Because it doesn't matter why you succeed. Actually, it does matter why you succeeded, not that you succeeded. You understand why you succeeded so you can succeed again. That's also important for failure. You understand why you fail at something so that you don't make the same mistakes again. It doesn't matter that you failed, but it matters that you reflect off of it and develop as an individual. Okay, so where am I on this journey about now? I think I'm 6 months in, been to some tournaments, got lucky at some speaking high, but still fell hard. What kept me going? What made me improve faster? How did I keep practicing? I think that the core root way you get better at debate, and also a lot of skills in general, is just to practice a lot more. And personally, I think that I took the path of just practicing as much as I can. Please don't make the mistake of spending like way too much time debating. I want you guys to, when you do debate, you do it strategically, you do it thoughtfully. Don't just waste your time doing random debate rounds that you don't care about. Because ultimately, if you don't feel passionate about something, you're not learning, you're not going to get better. You're just going to sit there, say 5 minutes of something and move on. I think that my biggest mistake was doing way too many spars that were completely pointless and not actually listening or thinking about why I failed. That's why I think personally I could have improved faster, and I hope everyone listening can also find ways to do that too. But just how far did I really take doing too many debates? Well, I think I had like 5 debate rounds a week, not including tournaments. And so adding it all up at some point, I did 300 rounds in the last year. So don't do that. Be more strategic. Listen to feedback, especially from judges, and just like improve from there. Because I think that yes, practice is important. You guys should also learn from my mistakes to become better as individuals and also not burn out and all those. So I'm now going to bring out my 3 key takeaways that I think that I have derived from my experiences. And obviously, I'm not the best debater in this room. The grade 12s are ultimately better than me. But I think that these 3 core concepts are things that I want to just give. And I think that they apply to a lot of things. And even if it's not just debate, I want you to take away these 3 core concepts and apply them to things in your life. Like when I am struggling in IB physics, I can remind myself why I'm doing it with being passionate, reminding myself to be determined and reflect on every single mistake I make so that I can become better. And this is crucial to debate too. I want to point out one thing about each one of these areas. I think that passion isn't something you magically get overnight. It isn't something you get from just studying. You can't read a textbook on how to be passionate about debate. Passion is something you have to find within yourself. You have to reflect on who you are as an individual and why you even do debate in the first place. Because yes, sure, someone forced to do debate can be very good. I have friends who are like that. But I think that if you want to become happy and good at debate yourself, not needing to be forced by others, you can find your own passions. And I think everyone has an aspect of debate and aspects of life that you can find passion in, whether it's debating random facts, fun facts about like monkeys, or like random information about politics, or even just sports. There are infinite number of topics and concepts that can be explored in debate, which is why I think it's super easy to get passionate about. And it's something that I very much value and find very fun and interesting. Now, if you really want to improve fast, you need to be determined. I think that one of my main driving factors to even get better at debate in 1 year only was to be determined, realizing that I only had 2 years, and I set my goals to be like the others in my class, like the other people who were in my debate, grade, basically 08 or 2008 people, like Angela, like, I can't think of any other names, but just saying other 08s who are good, like Wency too, right? So again, I wanted to catch up, right? And that was what made me determined. And maybe you can't find the same reason for getting good at debate so quickly. I ask you that to try. I want you to be reflective. I want you to think about what drives you to succeed, and I want you to apply that and become determined if you really do want to become debate. Because if you don't care, no one can force you to. If you don't care, you can't magically get better. Now, this brings me to my third one, which is something I see in a lot of the debaters that I've developed, I don't know, alongside of, right? I started at Link Key in level 1 after all, and I saw a lot of level 1 and 2 debaters and 3 and 4, all the way up until, well, right now I'm in level 6. And between this journey, I realized that one of the things that really separated debaters who improved quickly and those who ended up staying in their levels was whether or not they were going to reflect on their mistakes. And I think that this looks like three different things. First of all, it looks like actually thinking about what you say and how that impacts your debates. Two, I think it looks like listening to your teacher and reflecting on what you actually understand and remembering to ask questions on things you don't. And three, in tournaments, always be there taking notes. And my first, actually, up until now, I still take notes on what my judge gives me as feedback because I always care about what they say. Even if I think the judge gave a bad call, at least if I know what they have to say, I can think like them, I can understand my flaws, and become more able to be a better debater. I want to end this off on two notes. One, you might not succeed at debate. You might fail, but who cares? Who cares that you fail? If someone judges you for that, they're probably like wasting their time. I think that ultimately you shouldn't care about your losses. You should like celebrate your wins, but not define yourself by them. I think the only metric that decides whether or not you succeed is comparing yourself to your past self and asking, did I improve and am I happier? Those are the two things that you should be asking yourself, not these random arbitrary sheets of paper or pieces of plastic and metal. Okay.
非常感谢，非常精彩的演讲哈！我再多说两句。那个他刚才他自己也介绍了，他其实学习辩论的时间并不是很长啊。2023年年底，这也就是1年多之前，我们这个 club 成立的时间不长，那时候你才 level 3吧，刚来 club 学习的level 2或者是3，level 3，level 2那个时候不让进 club 啊，刚进到 level 3，刚结束 level 2，1年前。然后他就是嗖的一路就是往上跳啊，现在已经是我们的冠军班成员了，就1年的时间。OK， 所以天下没有什么不可能，只要你用心啊。安东尼是一个非常好的例子，而且呢，我带着他们出去打比赛的时候呢，他是一个很好的大哥哥啊，他11年级嘛，12年级都不跟我走了，自己翅膀都硬了啊。11年级的我们出去带团打比赛的时候，他替我承担了很多，搬东西呀，组织小朋友啊，帮我拿房卡呀，就是一个小助教、小助理，以后打比赛你必须得跟我一块儿走啊，你不能你翅膀再硬你别自己走，老师需要你 ，OK。而且呢，刚刚过去的那个学期，因为我们几位12年级的 judge 有非常重的学业和大学申请安东尼就挑大梁了因为他家离得近嘛他就在这个 Oakville 住所以我们这个 club 经常是12年级 judge 不能来的时候，他就做 judge，12年级来不需要他的时候，他就做 debater， 非常灵活，从来没有怨言非常感谢。这个12年级的一毕业，你就是你就是大 leader 了还有文琪，我们11年级的在2个校区就挑大梁了。好了，那我们来欢迎第3位 Angela。
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Angela. I'm currently a grade 11 student at Haverhill College in North York, Toronto. And today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experience, my journey as a debater, the things that I've learned, and also some crucial things that I think you should do to become a better debater. So first, starting off with my experience, I started off pretty young. I think I was in grade 5 or 6 when I started public speaking here at Linkey. I still remember the first speech I ever gave. The prompt was like, name something that you really like. And I started talking about how I really liked dogs. And I was very scared of alligators because I was scared that they would eat me. So I think we've come a long way from that. But starting from public speaking to then going into debate, starting from, I think around, it was grade 6. I think I learned a lot from public speaking as a foundation because it really helped me in making my debate skills better, I think, as well. And then in grade 8 and grade 9, I started to more seriously compete at bigger competitions. So this could be bigger high school BP competitions like Hart House, Western, McGill. And from then on, I've tried to attend as many tournaments as possible because I truly think the most valuable learning opportunities are when you are going to tournaments, when you are forced to debate against other people who you are not familiar with. You don't see them on your everyday class, but you're forced to debate with people who are better than you, and you learn from their skills as well, and you learn from losing or you learn from winning. And that is also where I think you're able to get the most feedback from the judges who are very, very experienced university or debaters as well. So I think for me, attending tournaments was a big, big aspect of my improvement, and I think it really did help a lot. For me, my debate performance was very, very inconsistent, as I think our other two speakers have already talked about. Certainly was not a linear progress. And what I've seen actually, and I think this has happened with many, many debaters, is that I saw myself doing very well at a tournament. And, I get on this high of, wow, I'm doing so well at these tournaments. And then the next few tournaments I go to, I just do completely horrible on, and I just completely plateau almost, and it seems like I'm not improving, and it seems like I'm stuck at a constant skill level where all I'm doing is losing at tournaments, bottom tabbing, not breaking to finals. But I think what I've truly learned from these experiences is that even when you plateau, even when you reach points where you're not improving or you seem like you're not improving, you're not doing well at tournaments, don't let that get to you, because ultimately it is what you do with your failures where you learn to be more smart in the way you debate, you learn to be more smart in the way you make your argumentation and make connections with other people. And I think I just want to cover some of my debate experience. So what I've mainly done is BP, as well as CNDF, and then sometimes World Schools. I think it's also very valuable to learn multiple debate styles, because I think you're able to understand the different ways that argumentation is different, the different speaking styles that you might need within each style, and ultimately go to more competitions. So as you can see here, here's some of my achievements, some tournaments I did particularly well at. Okay, so to talk a bit about why I think debate is a valuable experience, a valuable sport, something that I think is a valuable activity. Firstly, I think you're able to develop skills that carry into multiple aspects of your life, being public speaking, your critical thinking ability, and your ability to communicate. And I think this has proved very, very valuable in all of my other activities as well. I think debate was a very good foundation for some of the other activities I do, such as DECA and mock trial, because it allowed me to think on my feet and to think fast. So whenever in a debate round, since for BP, traditionally you only get 15 minutes of preparation, and then you give a 5-minute speech. And these times you have to be very, very smart with how you use your prep time to understand your argumentation and make that argumentation. And I think it has taught me that improvisation is something that's very important. And even if you don't know exactly what you're going to say, you still have to give a speech at the end of those 15 minutes of prep. Second, I think that this has generally helped me become a more well-rounded individual. That is to say, I've learned things in many, many different topics. So I've learned more about economics. I've learned more about political science. I've learned more about social justice. And as a result, I can use these skills into do other things like school, into my school classes, my English essays, into my English discussions. And I think ultimately this has helped me learn more about how to be a better student overall. Third, I think it's just very valuable to learn necessary teamwork and collaboration skills, because for most debate rounds, you're going to be partnered with one other person, 2 other people, sometimes even 4 other people in world school styles. And you're able to develop key skills where you understand what other people are saying, you listen to their ideas, you build off of their ideas, and as a result, you yourself can learn from their strengths and their weaknesses and become a stronger debater yourself. And I think collaboration skills are especially important, because even now in high school, when I do things in classes like group projects, I'm able to better work with my peers. But I think going onwards, when you're in university, when you're in work, this will also translate into very, very good work skills, your ability to do good interviews and things like that. And then finally, I just think debate is very fun. I think that sounds a little weird, but I do think genuinely it is fun to make arguments, to learn more about topics, to learn more about current issues in our world. And ultimately, I think I've had a very, very good time with the time I've spent debating and the time that I've gone to tournaments. So most crucially then, I want to talk about my advice. Because I think starting from a debater who has experienced many plateaus where in moments where I felt like I wasn't going to succeed and many moments where I felt like I was not improving, here are some ways that I think you can better improve. Firstly, don't be scared or discouraged. There are many times where I did very badly at a tournament and it ruined my perception of debate and whether or not I wanted to continue. But I think you should start as early as possible. And even if you don't start early, there's still many, many opportunities for you to become a very, very good debater like Anthony. But I think if you can, I think starting early is definitely a very good choice. You take any opportunity that you get, even if you don't think you are good enough for a tournament. Going to a tournament is still valuable. I remember when I went to my first tournament, I literally was crying to my parents because I didn't want to go because I thought that I would be worse than other people. But I think ultimately when I went, I realized, hey, this is not so bad. I've learned from other people. I've debated against better people. And even though I didn't do super well, I can still take the skills that I learned from that specific tournament. Second, I think it's getting feedback for every round you do, writing it down and then applying it. For me, when I first started debate, I did not write down my feedback. I just went on and I was like, oh, I'm going to improve so much. But I think what's most important is you take down what the judge says about your critiques. You take down what the judge thinks was wrong with your speech and ways that you can improve. And you look back at it when you are giving another speech. And then you consistently keep on doing that until you see common themes with what is wrong with your speeches. And then you make those improvements to fix those problems. Third, I think it's very, very important to be open-minded when you're debating, experimenting with different styles, different partners, because I've seen many, many people in the debate circuit where they're very fixated on, oh, I must be a first speaker. And that has limited a lot of their opportunities in terms of their abilities to partner with certain people, but also their growth to understand, the different speaking styles and how that impacts your way of learning as well. But I also think it's important to experiment with different partners. Don't feel as though you must be set on one specific partner and that your debate career is over if you don't find one person that you work well with. If you're able to practice with more people, you're going to find someone that you think you work well with, someone that you think you want to continue working with. And as a result, you are able to form those better teamwork and those better connections. Fourth, I think if you want to become more competitive, what I found very, very useful was setting goals and tracking my performance. So what I actually did was I created a Google Drive, and it was like a Google Drive of everything debate related. So I had certain files and folders for all the content that I learned, that I heard from, my teachers, whether that be international relations or social justice. But I also created documents where I outlined what I wanted to get out of debate, the specific things I wanted to learn, my achievements that I wanted to achieve, and anything that I wanted to improve on. And I also set a spreadsheet where I had all of my previous debate records. So I literally recorded all of my speaker scores. I recorded my performance for each tournament that I went to so that over time I could see whether or not I was improving in between each tournament and whether or not I can improve for my next tournament. So I think this is ultimately very, very important because debate is not just about doing it, but it's about reflecting on the ways that you can improve and be a better speaker. And I think these were very, very effective ways for me to improve. I think another very, very important thing that I've learned from debate is to be accountable for your speeches. I've heard many debaters, and I know I used to do this like a year ago, where after every round at a tournament and I didn't get the result I wanted to, maybe I got third or fourth, I would complain, and I would complain because my judge was a bad judge. I think that's the number one mistake that you can make, because when you complain about those things, you don't ultimately realize the ways that you can improve as a debater, and you push it aside and blame other people. So what I think is really important is even if you might have had a result that was not desirable, you still take what you've learned from that result, the ways that you can improve, and don't blame other people, because ultimately your speech was the thing that resulted in your result. And then finally, I think most importantly is practice. What I found very useful, and I started debate in the COVID time, so I, got really used to the people in the debate community, and I made a really, really great group of friends. And within these group of friends, we would always do practices. I remember having a Discord server where a bunch of people joined, and then we all did practices very often during COVID. And I think this was especially valuable because I was able to learn from my peers, my friends, people I was familiar with,
And as a result, I was able to grow from them as well. So I think practice is ultimately the most important thing. But even if you do practice, practice is not effective if you don't learn from the mistakes that you made in your practices. So even when you, for example, come to Leading Tomorrow Debate Club and you have all these amazing judges judging you and giving you feedback, it's most important that not that you're just giving the speech, but that you listen to what the judges have to say about it and then apply corrections in order to become more successful the next time you debate. And of course, to this day, there's still many, many things that I work on that I cannot get perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect speech. There's no such thing as being the perfect debater. There's so many different aspects that I still need to work on from, months ago that I've still had feedback given to me. So I think what's ultimately most important is that you understand that and then you move forward, because if not, then you're going to get stuck in a loop where you think you're doing better, but then you don't just do better because maybe tournament luck or whatever was not in your favor. So I hope these ways will help you guys learn a little bit more, help you understand a little bit more about my debate experience in ways that I improved personally, and hopefully you can apply it to your own debate journeys as well. Thank you.
谢谢 Angela， 还是得说两句。那个 Angela 和 Sunny 呢是 Harvard 的学生啊，所以他们两个是全力的 support 我们北约克的 Debate Club。在去年的那个整个一个学年里面，他们两个是北约克唯二的两个 judge， 因为我们北约克校区成立的比较晚。没有那么多高级别的孩子都是从最初的 level 一点一点培养起来的，所以那边比较缺 judge。这边呢 ，judge 们之间还可以互相商量，今天这几个来，下星期那几个来，他们俩没得商量到了星期二放了学 ，Harvard 的 Debate Club， 他们两个是 co-president， 他们两个先要在自己的学校带着他们学校的 Debate Club 的孩子。活动2到3个小时，再紧接着给北约克校区的 Debate Club 孩子们再去这个布置这个 motion， 然后小朋友们准备 motion 的时候，他们两个才可以吃自己的晚饭活动结束之后都9点多了，然后把 Sunny 送到家之后已经10点多了Angela 在路上就睡着了，到家就很晚了，有的时候快11点了。然后爬起来还说：“哎呀，阿姨，我今天晚上作业还没写呢，我还得回家写作业。”辛不辛苦？非常辛苦，但人家坚持了1年所以说，我们一定要珍惜这个 club Debate Club。上一个学期，就目前这个学期，因为我们放在这星期5，没有人报名，活生生的一个学期几乎没有人报名，我们给暂停了。所以呢，我希望住在北约克那个校区的孩子们跟那儿的客服好好沟通一下，我们选择一个合适的时间，我们要把这个 Debate Club 重新再办起来。而且呢，为了减轻他们两个的负担 ，Jerry 同学已经 get ready 去 support 了，因为他是 UCC 的，他们家在 UCC 旁边有一个公寓如果他们两个有什么事儿 ，Jerry 就不上这边来，就去支持北约克。我都打好招呼了，结果人家等了1个学期那边人数不够，所以呢，北约克校区的家长，我知道你们都在线上，请你们也克服一些困难不是那么容易的，组织一个 club 真的不是那么容易的。judge 们要每个星期雷打不动风雨无阻去给小朋友们做 judge， 这不是一件容易的事情你们说今天我没时间，明天我没时间，活生生的这个 club 办不起来，是不是很可惜很可惜失去了这么好的机会，所以想一下好了，下一位是 Chris 是吧？好嘞，欢迎 Chris。
All right, hi everyone. My name is Chris, and wait, the slide is not updated. Can you refresh the? I added some other stuff to the slide, so just 20 minutes ago. Can you refresh the page, and it's probably gonna show up.
大家稍微等一下，他要 refresh 一下这个
Thank you.
slides。
Yeah, that works.
Good.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Yeah, so my name is Chris again, and some of my achievements is listed there. So I'm a Drexel Open Quarter finalist, which is a university tournament, and also top spoke McMaster, and also I was the finalist in McMaster, and also I was a finalist in Western, and breaking a bunch of other tournaments like Queens and stuff like that. I just didn't really list them anymore. So to give a bit of a background of my childhood, I guess I immigrated to Canada in grade 5, and I was ESL until grade 7, which is when I actually picked up debate. And debate has brought me tremendous benefits to writing, public speaking, and knowledge. And especially in my school, when no other people debate, it really puts you in an advantage. It's like a comparative advantage because debaters tend to use certain jargons that normal people don't use. They tend to use certain arguments or just certain ideas that we typically apply to debate that just like normal high schoolers really would never get familiar with. So in my school, Oakville, Trafalgar, barely anyone do debate. So my English teacher really, really loves me, and I tend to get very high marks in the essays I write and stuff like that. And a trick I tend to do is that if like the English teacher asks you to like read a book, you don't actually have to read the book. You just apply some framework you learn from debate, like some philosophical ideas, and you can just apply it to the essay. And usually it really, really works well. But like that's not like academic advice for you. But like I'm just saying the benefits of debate is tremendous for your marks and everything like that. So for the first few years of my debating careers, I attended every opportunities that was available to me. I signed up for like every debates, and I partner with like everybody, whoever wants to partner, I would just partner with them. And so yeah, just like take every opportunities you have. Don't like just say like I want to improve till this certain degree and then go to tournaments because I don't want to embarrass myself, because you're missing out on the opportunities to actually to improve yourself. And I also want to give a shout out to Linky, because one of my favorite classes that just got me into and hooked into debate was a WSC class coached by Brent and Ben. Both are like tremendously good mentors in my life, just not only in debate, but also just in my wider life. Both Ben and Brent has like tremendous benefits to like all kinds of like personal issues I talk to them about, and then they're just like great supporters in my life. And Ben gives me great mental health advice and just like a life advice that I really appreciate. And we're like great friends now. We like play games together and stuff like that. So you really meet good people in debate, because people self-select into debate as an activity, and the people that self-select into this activity tend to be pretty nice people, because like through the process of debate, you learn different stuff, and then you tend to become more empathetic in the process. So some advice I have for you is that I think you shouldn't be just like debating for the sake of debating. You should actually try to be curious and learn about the things that you're debating about. So you're not just like, abstracting out and then using certain arguments for the sake of winning debate, because this tends to be quite toxic. And a more healthy way to approach debate is simply to like not really like partially associating the benefits of debate with wins and losses, but primarily appreciate debate from the things that you learn, because a lot of the social issues that you learn are actually very, very interesting. Like bunch of the philosophers I read through case prepping, like Slavoj Zizek or like Nietzsche's or like things like that. Like they're actually interesting people. Or like Judith Butler, when I was prepping for like feminism debate, you learn about like things like intersectional feminism, like all kinds of stuff like that are actually interesting, not just like argumentative points. So I think a general trend I observe is that most debaters quit along the way. So when I went to Linky in level 1 classes, like I met many people also in level 2, level 3s, but most of them, they just like actually 90, like 5, actually maybe 100% of them just all quit debating. So like the issue with sort of that is that you never reap the benefits, but you also like spend a lot of time on it. So it's sort of like a sunk cost fallacies. So you waste a lot of time kind of doing nothing until you reach a certain point. You're not really benefiting from that much if you're just quitting from the beginning. And an interesting analogy I thought of is like stock valuations, right? So like I'm a big fan about like stocks. I buy like a ton of stocks. So like what matters in stock is like the fundamental intrinsic valuations of a stock. It's the underlying of the value of the stock you analyze from their like future catalysts or like their financials and things like that. So one of the things that like every like stock traders or like investor will tell you is that the daily fluctuations of the stock really do not matter. Like there might just be some like market trends, like the inflation report is like being reported to the public, and the stock goes down and up like as the market as a whole. But really matters is the intrinsic value of the company that you're investing in. If the company is like getting a contract from the government, no matter the daily fluctuations, you're still gonna go. The price of the stock is still gonna go up at the end of the day, like next year, like 10 years down the line. So I think that that's how you treat yourself, just like how people analyze stocks. Like you should treat yourself as like having a high intrinsic value, which is likely if you're persistent and you're consistent in learning the stuff that you need to learn. And like even if there's like the fluctuations in your performance, like everyone else has talked about, you should still stay calm because you should believe in your own intrinsic values. Hope that's an interesting analogy. Also, I think that you should try really innovative arguments because debate allows a lot of room for flexibility and creativity. Like the famous debater Harish Natarajan has said. So for example, in my own time, I have advocated for many ways to innovate upon debate and just be creative in the debate arguments. So in a lot of like debate Facebook series posting page, where a lot of like debaters gather together and discuss like debates, I've advocated and written in length about things like performance debate, which is something that American debates do. So like some like Black debaters actually rap in debate, which is a very, very interesting way to advocate and make certain arguments. And they also make a lot of other arguments, types like critique and things of that nature. So I think that like when you're engaging in debate, don't just try to follow the blueprints set by other debaters. Don't just try to replicate other debaters' arguments you see on YouTube videos or see in other tournaments. Try to be creative and then try to be more critical of the things that they are seeing and then try more creative ways of debating. That's how we actually improve debate as a community together. And the third advice I can give you is that you can actually reach out to many top debaters like worldwide. So like even world champions. So I have like when I was really interested in debating, I actually like messaged like 30 plus like top debaters worldwide, and it like most of them actually responded to me. So I messaged like David Africa. He gave me so many solid advice. I messaged Matt Cato. He's such a like passionate person. He answers in length about all the questions I ask him. And then also messaged Entin Lee, and then he's also just like a very, very likable person. I asked him a lot of questions on social movements and the seminars she gave and the seminars I watched her, and they all are very, very passionate people. Again, the same logic applied. They self-select into debate, and they have contributed so much to the community. So like likely if you have a genuine question for them, they're also going to answer you. So take those opportunities, and you have lots of things to learn from the most brilliant minded people just in the world in general. And last thing to say that if you're just starting out with a debate and you're kind of lacking resources, I think that you should definitely visit the Facebook page called Debate Series Posting. Most of the resources are concentrated there, and they give so many solid advice for beginners. And they also give a lot of resources for you to learn. Like they publish seminars and notes on different topics, and you can just learn them instead of going through more scattered notes on internet. You have to use like you really don't know the key term to search on internet. But debaters, what they do is that they either make seminars or notes that compact all different issues into like one file so you can learn them in a more concentrated way. And if you want to go in depth on one like branch of the things that they talk about, you can simply just like search that up like afterwards. Yeah. Thank you very much.
感谢 Chris。
Thank you。
大家是不是期待着我再说几句？必须说啊 ，Chris 是一个比较内向的男孩子。其实我跟他交流的次数都不是很多，但是我跟他妈妈聊的很多。他自己也谈到了，他来加拿大来的比较晚，7年级的时候还在 ESL， 能想到吗？7年级的时候他还是个 ESL 的学生，而且赶上疫情啊，他妈妈说那几年他感觉到孩子都要抑郁了，还没有伙伴。非常感谢Linda Key David 给他打开了另一扇门啊，他自己也说到了这个。那我个人认为，你是不是一个优秀的辩手，跟你是内向还是外向，其实没有什么直接的联系啊。这个思维是比较重要的，所以很多孩子说，那个家长说，哎，我们家孩子不爱讲话，我们家孩子是内向，他做不了 debater， 错，你是错的啊。那 Chris 就是一个很好的例子，他其实平时很安静，包括在我们 club 里面，他非常安静。那如果其他的几位 judge 在，他就主动做 debater， 他不做 judge 啊。其他的 judge 不在，他上来做 judge 前几天有一次我忘了是什么原因，你们几个都没来啊，我们缺 judge，然后 Chris 说他来，结果他迟到了。为什么迟到？他也没有解释，就是迟到了啊。但是人家到了啊，也是完成了工作。后来他妈妈跟我讲，妈妈的朋友生病了，妈妈跑到当趟医院去帮忙，回来的时候路上堵车，然后也就是在那一天陪伴了他很多年的狗狗去世了。这么多事儿放在一起，他都没有跟我请假，责任感，对吧？其他几个榨汁没来，缺榨汁，他答应我了，无论家里发生什么事儿，我都要把这件事情做到。所以他就催着他妈妈，就赶紧回来，赶紧回来送他来。以后再有这种情况，在群里说一下，我们可以去接你的，不一定非得等妈妈啊。我为什么要讲这件事情？就是这些孩子都很优秀啊，优秀是一种习惯，无论他在哪里，他都是这个样子啊，是一种习惯，也是一种传承。啊，父母优秀，孩子优秀啊！不管是线下和线上的家长，记住这一点，优秀就是一种传承。你优秀，你的孩子就优秀啊！好了，我就多说了2句。下一位，Rebecca。好了，我们欢迎 Rebecca。
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I actually looked through 6 years of photos and found no pictures of me debating, only pictures of me eating at tournaments. So I was like, that makes a lot of sense for me. Anyways, hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm grade 12. I'm a grade 12 student at Ridley College. And before I begin, I'd like to say I'm eternally grateful to be here, to be given this opportunity to speak, to be able to be a part of the Leading Tomorrow Debate Club in the first place, being there from the very first meeting. Thank you to all my lovely other speakers. They're all so talented and I'm excited to hear more from them. And thank you for coming to listen to me as well. Thank you to Liu Laoshi, thank you to Pan Laoshi, thank you to Zhong Laoshi. Thank you all for this wonderful opportunity. Yeah, I'm really excited to share. Okay. So I started debating in grade 6, but I wasn't really serious. And I actually took my very first lessons here in this very building, in this very room. It looked a lot bigger then, but now I'm speaking to you all here. So it's kind of a surreal moment for me there. I started competing more seriously roughly around grade 8, and I debated a lot in grade 8 to grade 10, where I would do tournaments almost weekly, at very least monthly. That was a very intense period for me. And through that process and through experimentation, I've figured out that I really like BP the most. I have most of my accomplishments in British Parliamentary, but I've also done CNDF and World School Styles. I didn't list any of my achievements. I've done decently well, I think, at tournaments like McGill and Queen's. But yeah, I didn't want to focus too much on that. So I wanted to more focus on what are the challenges and lessons that I've learned or overcome, as well as what's my advice. And I think that for me, I'm a really shy person, or I was a very, very shy person. I didn't really like talking. I was very uncomfortable. So being able to do debate, coming here, especially like I said, when I was 10 and having to speak in front of a lot of people about topics I was so unfamiliar with, was an incredibly it was a very uncomfortable experience, if I'm being honest. But I think being able to go and continue despite uncomfort is an incredibly powerful thing that I'm inevitably going to have to continue doing. But I'm very grateful, and I think it's incredibly fantastic that I got to undergo that so early, that I'm more comfortable to be able to do things like have public speaking, to be confident, and to express myself in the way that I can. I think that I've also learned respectful articulation and critical thinking. The way that I use language, the way that I can use syntax, the way that I can speak in front of people as well as write has dramatically changed because of the debate and my experiences here. And not only speaking well and eloquently, I think it's also about being able to do it in a respectful manner, where you learn how to speak your mind without stepping on anyone else while respecting other people, even though you might not really agree with them at all. That's all embedded into debate and the way that we learn and the way that we compete. So I think that is an incredible experience to have. It's definitely improved my critical thinking. I think the other speakers have talked about it, but I am able to judge things very quickly and I'm able to think critically through things. This has definitely helped in a lot of my classes. I take IB, and then one of the dreaded feedbacks that all my friends get is, this wasn't critical enough, or this wasn't analytical. And I think that I've almost never gotten that comment because of me doing debate for so long, that it's just embedded into everything that I think and the way that I approach argumentation. Also just being open-minded and curious and being flexible. One of the most defining anecdotes of my debate career was that I really wasn't good at kind of topics like relating to economics and finance and international relations. For the longest time, I was usually really good at the soft ones, which are about like art and philosophy and feminism. So I remember I used to get petrified when those would come along. And then when all these debaters, usually guys as well, would throw all these economics terms at me, I'd be like, I have no idea what's going on. And frankly, I'm too scared to ask. And then I had a wonderful teacher who I actually met at here, Link Key, Mel, and she was like, Rebecca, you need to just ask me what these mean because it's not actually that complicated and you're limiting yourself by being too scared to ask. So I did, and I've learned a lot more, and I've learned that it's fine to be, you don't know things, and it's good, and it's in fact important that you're able to ask with curiosity, with open-minded with, and not like feel prideful or anything like that. And this has also helped me be a lot more flexible when I'm learning and things. I might not be the smartest person in the room. I might not know the most about a topic, but it's definitely taught me that like that is fine and that is actually incredibly good for your growth. And that is something that you should actively seek out to do. Or when you're facing challenges, that is not a sign to not say anything and pretend that you know what these words means. It's a sign that you should ask someone and learn. And I think that's a fantastic experience to always have. Just collaboration, just for collaboration. I don't, yeah. Anyways, debate is a very collaborative thing. You need to have a partner. You need to learn how to work with them. And I've had my fair share of partners that I did not agree with or we did not match. But being able to deal with that and being able to continue and still work single-mindedly to a shared goal is something that you're going to apply for the rest of your life because you're going to go into work eventually and you're going to have coworkers you don't like. You're going to have bosses you don't like. You're going to have teachers you don't like. And being able to still work with that and put aside your own personal feelings to achieve the common goal is an incredibly important skill to have. And I'm very grateful to debate to being able to teach me that very early on and like a lot. So that's great. So my advice, I wanted to make it more like advice that I personally have that I haven't heard a lot of debaters talk about. My biggest piece of advice, honestly, is to read and not just the news. Because I think the classic advice is read the news a lot and be really aware of the politics. And I think that's incredibly useful and you should definitely be doing that. If you don't want to, I would say like also just definitely at least read the news before a tournament so that you know what's going on. Relatively just take a cursory glance of what's going on, what could the CAs be thinking about doing. But when I mean read, I mean not just the news, I mean read not things that are coverage, but more like argumentative. Like I have magazines and newsletters and Substacks that I read constantly. That's just because I think they're fun. But being able to read someone's like well-written, articulated, thoughtful ideas put down into wonderful prose and reading them constantly is one way that you will learn, not just content, like what's going on in Canada, what's going on in the US, what's going on in Ukraine and Russia. It's about exposing yourself to higher level ideals and not ideals, ideas written by well-informed people. And the even better than that, you should be reading books. I kind of sound like an English teacher there, but you should be reading like nonfiction books on like economics that I did. And you'll be able to see not just content, but you'll be able to see like how experts in their fields articulate their own arguments, which will then help frame your thinking. So even if you're not taking away specific content, you're taking away frameworks and ideas of thought. And yeah, take personal responsibility for your failures and losses. I think Angela already said this really well, but I used to be the person who'd be like, yeah, that judge didn't know what they were talking about at all. Did they even listen to half of my speech? No. You should definitely be taking responsibility for yourself. I will not say that there aren't bad judges. I do still believe that there are bad judges, but you can win with bad judges if you give a good enough speech. If you lost with a bad judge, it means that you actually did have something to improve on. And if you fail to recognize that, that is a tremendous loss to your own growth and your improvement. Yeah. And then take inspiration, don't replicate others. I found that with my time in debate, it's been a long time. Sometimes I can tell when people have been watching too many other people speak or have been like watching too closely to other people's speeches, and they're trying to replicate the styles and ways of speaking or ideas or phrases that other people use. And I would say that I usually caution against this. Don't ever try to replicate someone else's style. You can improve your style by taking inspiration, but never try to replicate it because fundamentally the best style you'll ever have is the one that you developed for yourself. And people can tell, and it's far more genuine and it's far more persuasive, and it's just generally better and more comfortable for you to develop your own distinctive style that will stand out when you're speaking and is going to be more comfortable for you to use in the future. Continued experimentation, I think this is also kind of mentioned, but And I think Angela also mentioned this. She talked about plateaus. And I think I encountered my fair share of them. And yes, I could have gone through it and just buckled down and done more work and just did more practice rounds. But I actually thought what was most useful to me was I just switched it up. I used to be, I can only speak second. And then I decided to give a first speech for no reason. And it ended up being one of my best speeches I'd given in a really long time. Or when we were online and I decided, you know what, we're not in person yet, but I'm gonna still try and do paper prep. And that was also, once again, one of my better speeches in a really long time. And I still only paper prep, regardless of the style of tournament I'm at. Just continue experimentation. You'll be surprised that like perhaps you've been setting a limiting belief about yourself about debate and it's holding you back or it's not helping you progress. And that little like kind of tweak is what you need to be able to push yourself forward. And lastly, have fun and just don't take yourself too seriously. When I was in that really intensive period from grade 8 to 10, I just kept going to tournaments and I kept being disappointed in myself. And at a certain point, I didn't really like debate anymore. And I actually ended up having to take a break from it because I didn't have that thrill that I used to when I'm up at the podium and I'm giving my speech and I'm giving all my argumentations and I'm really excited with all this reputation that I thought of on the spot. When I lost that, I realized that like I just don't want to do debate anymore. And I think it's perfectly okay to do that and just not take yourself too seriously. Because when I was in grade 8 to 10, I was like 13 to 14 years old. And I was just debating, right? It wasn't that serious and you can always take it seriously, but being able to give yourself a break and maybe like just take a step back and take like a grander look at it, you're progressing so much more than you realize. When I listen to old speeches, this is so apparent to me now, even though it wasn't apparent to me then. So being able to have fun, to be able to continue is really vital. And yeah, thank you for listening to me.
谢谢 Rebecca 啊，继续讲上去。这孩子真是看着长大的啊。我认识他妈妈的时候，他哥哥还没出生呢，所以真的是看着他长大的。那个一点一点成长起来啊。然后从这个 club 建立开始，他就是在 club 建立之前，我就有跟他讨论过，就是说如果我们建立这个 club，你愿不愿意来做这个最初的就是这一批 leaders， 他毫不犹豫就答应了啊。但是实际上对他来讲，也是克服了很多困难。他们家住在 Hamilton， 但是他在 Radley College 上学。大家知道这个学校在哪儿吗？在圣 Catharines， 所以他平时住在圣 Catharines， 周末偶尔才回 Hamilton， 所以他过来一次，他要从圣 Catharines 都靠近大瀑布了，他爸爸或者是妈妈，有的时候是爸爸和妈妈带着他，开车要开1个多小时他爸爸没有进来，我不知道爸爸妈妈是不是在线上，如果在线上的话，在这里受我一拜，非常感谢这个 club 结束之后，他还要赶回去所以我想他每次到家大概也有将近11点了吧也很辛苦这不是一般人能做到这一点。那为了什么？为了他自己吗？不完全是可能有一点点潘老师给我一点 volunteer hour， 很多呀，不是非要赚这点 volunteer hour leadership 学校里那么多 club 的 leader， 不需要再多一个呀，对吧？一个是给潘阿姨点面子 ，OK， 再就是优秀是一种传承。我还是这句话他愿意把他的时间、把他的经验贡献给这样的一个学校、这样的一个 club 帮助小弟弟、小妹妹们去提高这个 public speaking 和 debate 的这个能力真的是非常非常感谢 Rebecca。OK， 谢谢。下一位 Jerry， 大帅哥。他的那个麦克，对。你是夹在领子上还是拿着？
我拿着可以。
然后我给你弄，这样。
Okay, Hi, everyone. My name is Jerry. And before I go on to my debate experience, some tips and advice, and the value of debating, I'll give a brief introduction, a little bit about me. So I kind of took debate classes around grade 6 and 7, but I think I formally started taking it a lot more serious when I entered into high school in grade 8. And since then, I've been able to progress to become the president and captain of Upper Canada College's debate team. And I've also done well at some tournaments, notably Canadian Nationals, Harvard WSTC, Queens, McGill, and some others. So, and lastly, I think debate is very fun. I'd honestly say it's one of my biggest hobbies. It's one of the passions I've enjoyed the most throughout high school. So I'll give you guys a bit of information about that. So I think I've heard a lot of everyone else, talking about the value of debate. But I want to talk about something that hasn't really been touched on, and that's the Dunning-Kruger effect. So for those that don't know, Dunning, Jason Dunning, and Kruger, I forgot his first name, but basically in 1999, they made this theory, and they're both social psychologists. They say when people first practice a new sport or something that they're trying to get better at, like a skill, they're able to improve a lot. And in reality, yes, they are improving a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, they still don't know a lot. But their confidence is incredibly high. They think they know a lot of information. I think we could all kind of relate to that to some extent or the other. And this is something I've noticed a lot in debate, and that's basically about the importance of humility. Don't let hubris get to your head about, oh, I did very well at this tournament. I think I'm going to upgrade to a new partner that I think I'm going to, expect to keep on doing this well. Because as everyone else has talked about, fluctuations happen. And many times, in order to truly improve, you have to put your ego out of the side and go back to some basic drills. If you notice that speaking is one of your problems, maybe you should try some speech exercises. Go on YouTube and try to rap a rap song extremely quickly while making sure your pronunciation is still very articulate. These are some drills and practices that you guys can do. But eventually, when you notice that humility is incredibly important, and you're now willing to hear the judge's feedback after rounds, you don't think you're the best debater in the room, that's when real improvement actually happens, and you hit the slope of enlightenment, and then you hit the plateau of sustainability. And there's another thing I want to touch on that I think is incredibly valuable. So I've done debate for a large part of my life. I think I have some insight on what's incredibly important. And I agree with what everyone else has said, that intentional practice is incredibly important. But I think another thing to just look at is repetition is, in my opinion, what's the most important thing for improvement in debate. If you look at world-class athletes, when you look at, artists like the Beatles, for example, the more hours they put in, the more rounds they do, the more time they try to play a certain song, it just gets better and gets better. And I think if you look at all of the best debaters in the circuit right now, and you look at a graph of the amount of hours and amount of rounds they've dedicated in debates and how well they're doing, I think it would be very correlated, and it'd be like a linear trend. So what I'm saying is patience is incredibly important, because when you're spending like hundreds of hours of debating, you're not going to notice yourself getting better each hour after each round, but maybe you do this sort of cycle for a few weeks or maybe even a few months, and then you look back to how you were a few months like earlier, you'll notice that you have improved actually quite a bit. So I think it's very important to value patience and know that getting simply more hours and repetition, that's the sure, most confirmed way that you will improve as a debater. So it is grueling. A lot of people don't enjoy it, but I think it's the number one most important way, just to do more spars, watch more YouTube videos, and just spend more hours practicing reading up on content. Okay, and another point I would like to specify here is that you should not treat debate partners like they're speed dates. So this is a trend I've noticed very recently. And I think from my experience as a debater, I think when you're finding a partnership in someone else and you guys are trying to do well at many tournaments, you're aiming to improve with each other, And that means that both of you guys have to put in effort, kind of like a real relationship. So you guys both have to make changes. You guys both have to accommodate to each other. And that's how the best partnerships in debate actually begin. So I see a lot of people cycling through thinking they're going to find the person that's the best debater, the person they're going to work the best with. But in reality, that's not how that like really works. For example, me and Andy has partnered for some time. Initially, we didn't work very well together, but by spending more time practicing and going to tournaments, you slowly improve and it gets all better towards the end. Okay, and this is what I'll lead you guys off with. When I'm reflecting over like the past years of debating, I think the most important thing, and Anthony sort of touched about this earlier, is passion is incredibly, incredibly important. When you start debating or even in the midst of your debating journey, I know many people that have an ulterior goal that's focused on the external, such as getting onto Team Canada, winning this tournament, speaking first, like in this competition. But when you're focusing on things like that, you're not going to do you're not going to do better than the person that simply loves debating. Because when you look at this quote, the person who loves walking will walk further than the person who loves the destination. If you simply love the activity just because you love the game, of course you're going to do better. And I think the way you find that passion in the first place is by really reflecting on what made you start debating in the first place. Maybe your parents did that for you, but I think for you to spend a lot of time doing it, you also presumably enjoyed it to a high extent. So maybe you like the creativity, you like the intellectual stimulation. There's many aspects of it that I've come to enjoy. I'm pretty sure many of you guys have come to enjoy as well. I know you have, Chris. And so basically, when I'm reflecting on my time, what I remember are not winning all the big tournaments. I remember those as well. But what I truly remember are like the nights you spend debating when you're arguing with your partner because you guys are trying to find a solution to a case that you guys are having arguments about, or pulling all-nighters to do tournaments in Asia. And although you're very, very tired and you're hopped on many cups of caffeine, these are fun experiences that you look back on that in the moment, they might be considered suffering, but you look back and you really think like the journey is really what makes it worth like living and what makes you started it in the first place. So that's all of my insights. Thank you guys for listening.
谢谢 Jerry。Jerry 住在 Oakville 啊，他们家住在 Oakville，但是他在 UCC 上学，所以他也一样。他平时呢是在 UCC 附近住，只有周末偶尔回家啊。但是为了这个 club， 简直是很 crazy 的呀。他妈妈就坐在后面 ，OK， 说什么事儿都可以不去 club， 只要他有时间他就得来。然后呢，放学得让妈妈开车从 Oakville 开到 UCC 啊，接到他啊，然后 club 结束之后，又把他送回到那个 UCC 附近的那个家，然后他妈妈再开回到 Oakville。他的妈妈就坐在最后一排那个角落里，漂亮的妈妈，我们给这个妈妈鼓鼓掌。OK， 真的是，你这没有家长的支持，孩子自己做不到这一点啊。所以我觉得我以后可以办一次 debater 家长的经验交流会，我觉得很值得这样，是吧？从家长的身上你能看到孩子的影子啊。孩子想这么做，如果父母不支持，他做不到。他这么小，他不会开车，对吧？所以感谢 Jerry， 感谢 Jerry 的妈妈啊，好样的，谢谢你。下一位小美女Sunny，准备好了吗？你拿着。
Hi, my name is Sunny and I go to Havergal College. I'm a 12th grader. I'm going to talk to you a bit about my debate journey, my experience with debate, some advice I have for you, and also give quite a lot of personal anecdotes because I think I have quite a few interesting couple pieces of stories to share with you. You may relate, maybe it'll inspire you, maybe it'll be something for you to laugh at. But yeah, a little bit about me. I started debating in grade 6. And I started taking it more seriously in grade 8. So I actually, or maybe it was end of grade 7, but I started attending tournaments around then. I attended a lot of tournaments from grade 8 to 10, no matter big or small. I was just trying to get a lot of like practice in, and I did lots of online tournaments. I traveled a lot, did lots of in-person tournaments too. Just trying to like improve my debate skills and trying to get as much experience as possible. And then in grade 11 and in this year, I've been only trying to attend some big tournaments just because of like time things. But yeah, as a lot of people I said before, try to go to lots of tournaments. It'll help a lot. With Angela, we're debate club head at Havergal College, and I think debate has provided me with really an amazing opportunity to just be able to lead and nurture such an amazing community of people, and I'm really thankful for debate and for the opportunities it has given me in life. And a bit of what I do, I started with CP actually, and then I moved on to CNDF, and now I do BP World Schools, also CNDF. That's just a bit about me. Now for my debate achievements, I'll go over this really fast. I've done pretty good at some small tournaments. I qualified for NAT, senior provincials. I actually won Queen Summer, and then I did pretty good at Hart House. But of course, my debate tournament, as a lot of people have been saying today, it wasn't a linear line of progression and of growth. This is what you see here. These are the tournaments I've done good at, but there's been far more tournaments that I've done absolutely awful at. Maybe I just didn't place really good. Maybe I was like one speaker point off from breaking. There's a lot of behind the scenes that you don't really see. And at that time, when I was progressing through my debate journey, I had a lot of lowlights, or what I thought were my lowlights. My first low light was my first ever debate experience that my mom made me go to. It was a really small in-house debate tournament. I was super scared. I wanted to drop out last minute, but my mom said, think about your partner. And I said, you're right, that's unfair to him. So I went, and I was really frightened. I actually ended up winning the whole thing, which was really unexpected. And that became a highlight for me. But I should have realized that the first, or what I thought was a low light, was also a highlight this whole time, because that's what got me interested in debate. Like the fear I experienced, or what I thought was like going to be the most terrifying like 2 hours of my life, actually ended up being really fun. I didn't expect to do well at that tournament, but it was a really key learning process for me. After that, I had a bit of an ego boost, maybe too much of an ego boost. I went to some more tournaments. I traveled to the US, and I did really awful at all of them because I was still a really new debater at this time. But I learned a lot from these experiences. I remember when I gave my first whip speech in a tournament, and you're not supposed to give new content in the whip, but I didn't know that, and I gave new content. I did really bad. I felt so embarrassed, but that's what taught me to not give new content in the whip and to do better at future speeches. So this is proof that you don't always need to feel like winning a tournament is the only way to get better, because truly it's the lowlights that you think were lowlights at the time, but that actually help you improve and help you to learn new things. Now a bit more about some advice. I want to say that even though I think I went to a lot of tournaments from like my grade 8 to grade 10 year, and I've still been going to quite a few, going to a lot of tournaments is not the only way to improve. You can improve a lot by just doing practice rounds with your friends, actually focusing when you're doing debates in class, by doing spares, by even like recording, or spars, or even recording your own speech and listening to it. And you can see a lot of problems that you have and how you can take that and improve. You don't have to like go to tournaments. And if you do, it's not really about like the number, or like going to tournaments. It's not like the number of speeches that you give, it's important. It's really the feedback from the judges. You're paying not only to just debate with new people, but also to get feedback from good judges. So a really big point that I want to emphasize, and other people have been saying, is to please listen to feedback. And not just from judges at debate tournaments. You want to always make sure you write down that feedback, but also from your teachers when you're attending debate class. I know a lot of people, I used to do this. I go to debate class, I give my speech, and then I'm done for the night. But you also want to listen to the feedback not only the teacher gives you, but also the teacher gives to other people in your class, because you can also find lots of room to grow from there and get lots of really good feedback from there. And even feedback from your own partner, from other people. You can ask your friends or people that have listened to your rounds. And just really, you want to listen to this feedback and you want to see where you can grow from it, because you can only grow if you first recognize that you have issues in the first place and where you have these issues. Next, I want to say, Find a partner that you work well with, and don't be scared to experiment with new partners. I've had my fair share of partners. Don't feel binded to any one of them, and take class, or even if you go to like Linky Debate Club, take that as an opportunity to get to partner with more people, debate with more people, and find partners that actually you work well with and you enjoy partnering with. Because debate is a team-based sport, it's not an individual-based sport. So you want to find a partner that you can work well with, because then you'll feel more confident speaking with them. You'll have more effective prep times, and you'll also get a long-lasting friend, and you can have lots of good conversations outside of just debate. Finally, I want to stress that don't be afraid to get worse before you get better. When I first when I first started writing paper notes, I was copying a lot of the things that I did when I was still writing notes on my laptop, meaning that I wrote really chunky paragraphs. I always had to make sure that all of my prep time was spent writing, because if I didn't have enough words on my page, I wouldn't be able to talk. But I realized that was pretty bad as I did more debate and realized that was not the most efficient or good way to do things. So when I first went from writing a lot of notes to then I realized that I need to start writing less notes, that was a really big challenge for me. I actually got worse at debate, I think, when I tried making that jump because I wasn't used to it. So I kind of dipped down a bit. I started doing worse at tournaments. But after that, I started getting a lot better, because once I got kind of past that barricade, I was able to use my prep time more effectively, spend less time writing and more time actually listening to the round. And that's how I've gone from maybe notes looking, this is my debate book, by the way, like this, lots of notes, page fully covered, to notes more like this, and still being able to give a 5-minute speech based on notes like these. So again, don't be afraid to get worse before you get better. This is an illusion of getting worse. You're actually getting better in the long run. Oh, one more thing. Find what works for you, and don't just follow what everybody else does. Just because someone says to try this new like prep schedule, or like this new like exercise that you have to do every day, it doesn't mean that it'll work for you. Just experiment, see what works for you, make your own exercises, do your own practices, and you'll improve a lot that way. Finally, touching on a bit on how debate has really helped me grow as a person outside of just excelling in debate. I think really it's given me the confidence to do a lot of things, to recognize that I actually can public speak and I'm not a bad public speaker. When I was in like grade 4, I will say, my mom enrolled me into a public speaking like kind of club. It wasn't even a class, it was at my school, because I was a really shy kid and she was a little worried for me. I was so scared in that class. The teacher made us go around and do introductions and introduce us and our favorite color. And I ran to the washroom and I locked myself in there for the remainder of club because I was so scared just to introduce my name and my favorite color. Obviously, I've gone a very long way from there. And I think debate has really helped with that, because I've never officially taken any public speaking class. It's really debate that has been able to hone my public speaking skills. I actually attended a public speaking tournament like 2 years ago, WIPDSC, I think it was called. And I actually qualified for NATS, but I've never taken like a public speaking class in my life, compared to some kids took like hours and hours of class just to prepare for that tournament. But I think it was debate that really gave me these transferable skills and was able to help me with things like public speaking. And of course, as everyone else has said, you can apply it to things like academics, like your English essays, like class discussions where you're marked on how well you can like interact with others and support their arguments or counter their arguments. And finally, I think with debate, I've been able to build a really good network of friends that I've all met through debate. Angela has been my debate partner for, I'd say, the past couple of years, and she's also been my best friend. So it's really great to meet new people through debate. And honestly, debate is just a really great thing. And I guess I owe it to debate, I guess, for making me who I am today. So yeah, thank you so much.
谢谢 Sunny 啊，我刚才有介绍，他也是 Harvard 高的，然后跟着 Angela 一块儿为北约课的 Debate Club 做出了很大的贡献。我经常带学生出去打比赛哈，然后呢，我们这个Linky 的这个赛馆和这个后勤有一项任务，就是说在整个比赛期间呢，我们要建一个这个 debater 的家长群啊，然后呢，我要在 整个赛事的过程当中呢，去实时的报道啊，比如说孩子们在准备啊，孩子们上场啦啊，有的时候我进到房间里去拍一些这个图片，然后传给家长看啊，就这一对儿哈，永远给我美丽的笑脸，从来不躲着我啊，非常阳光啊，不管什么时候，只要潘老师一出现，马上冲着我做笑脸。我特别喜欢这一对儿，有的小孩就躲着我，一看我来了，赶紧的后脑勺。当然了，我也不想打扰到他们哈。我就是感觉到这个友谊啊，这个 friendship 是终生的，啊，这一生这小姐妹就绑在一起了，我们藤校团8个嘉宾，4个是藤校团的成员啊，这一对儿就不用说了，Andy、Rebecca，包括 Rebecca 的哥都是我们藤校团成员，所以做一个植入广告啊，我们的春假藤校团正在紧锣密鼓的这个准备当中啊，招生也是正在火热的进行当中如果感兴趣的话可以找小助手，找我和校长都可以啊。谢谢桑内，祝贺你，希望下一次在布朗大学的校园里能见到你，好吧？下一位。最后一位帅哥上场了。
All right. Can they hear me? Okay, sounds good. I took a couple of notes on my phone because I felt like they talked about a lot, so I wasn't going to cover too much. The first thing, I think they did a really good job talking about why debate is really good. Obviously, it can also be something that's super competitive. A lot of people feel like they're not improving. It's a little toxic sometimes. So there's a lot of reasons people don't like debate. I think it's very much a personal choice. If you do enjoy it, I think a lot of people do think it's very interesting and they keep getting better. I think they gave you a lot of really good reasons for why you should keep debating. But ultimately, I do think it's a personal choice. Okay, I'll talk a little bit about my own experience. I started debating like really late. I did one tournament in grade 9, which was UPenn. And then I did my first Canadian tournament at McGill in 2022. So I kind of missed the whole online debate thing. Like I didn't really do any online debate. And my first one was in person at McGill. A funny thing, like I was never actually a junior when I was debating, so I didn't get the opportunity to debate against like other juniors or like do any junior speaker or anything like that. But since then, I've done pretty well at some tournaments, both Canadian and internationally. I think traveling and doing stuff like that. So they told me to include some pictures. So this is me at McGill the year after that. This is me at Hart House and then at Harvard. So I think the thing that I can speak most to is probably improving fast and being able to fast track your improvement. I think obviously all of these debaters have done really well, but I started in grade 10, like really starting to improve. So I'll speak a little bit about that. So the first time I ever broke, it was Queens, right? It was Queens with Rebecca, and it was my third tournament that I had done. I honestly I think I got lucky that Rebecca wanted to partner with me because she kind of carried me that tournament. But I think it was really good for my mindset, and I think that's something that's really important when you're debating. So a couple of things in terms of like my advice. The first thing is not on here, but was really important to me was like my mindset going into tournaments. I think a lot of people tend to have like this idea of like, oh, these people are better than me, so I can't do well, or like, you know, I'm not that good yet, so I shouldn't expect to break. But because I broke really early, I kind of wanted to keep breaking and I didn't really want to get worse. So what that meant was I really, really wanted to do well. And when I lost, I would get really, really frustrated. And so what that meant was I was really, really focused on improvement for, you know, the year in grade 10 and then also going into grade 11, which I think was really, really important, specifically that mindset, because it led me to do certain things that I think definitely helped me. So the first thing was a lot of intentional practice. So after rounds, I would get frustrated when I would lose, and I would really want to know why I lost. And that's why I would listen to my judges really carefully. And I think actually the most important thing to listen to your judges for is just on content feedback. Each round is different, and it'll be a topic that you might not know much about. It might be a topic that you do know a lot about. But I think what university debaters all universally have over high school debaters, even if it's not like debate fundamentals or skills, or like them having a certain opinion of how you should structure your speech. I think they know more about the world than high schoolers do. And as I'm getting older, I'm kind of realizing like you do learn a lot more about the world as you get older. And so when you're listening to the feedback, I think the majority of it is going to be like very much real world facts that apply in debate rounds and certain ways that arguments function or they don't function, or why something can be said in a round, for example, in a topic that you don't really know about. That's the best feedback I've gotten from all of the judges. I think that is like universal across all judges in universities, that they know more about the world than you. And I think that's the best kind of feedback to kind of really take in and then try to apply to future rounds. And I think the reason that intentional practice works when you're debating is because debate is an activity that like content gets repeated quite often in a bunch of different motions. So like you'll see people saying like, oh, like now I have an econ motion, or now I have like an IR motion or feminist motion. Really, those motions cycle the same content, same arguments over and over again. And if you really are building, let's say you have a feminist motion and you learn like a lot about like a certain part of feminism, or like a certain part, like for example, like how it affects each individual, and that's what the debate is about, how like that narrative affects a lot of individuals. Like all of those things contribute to broadly that one topic that you're definitely going to see again in the future. And so if you're intentional about learning more about that specific topic, it is very cross-applicable to the future topics and motions that you'll see. And I think that's something that was really important for me. The second thing is, I don't think there's ever an objective truth or objective right in debate. And that's why some debaters can get away with like quirky arguments that you don't agree with, but the judge does agree with. The truth is, like when you're debating, you're not trying to be right. You're trying to appeal to a certain person and appeal to a certain judge. And I think understanding why you weren't able to achieve that is the most important. A lot of people tend to think like, this argument makes sense to me in my head. This argument should be correct to me. But like, even if you are right in that instance, I think what the best debaters are able to do is make the judge understand also why that is the most right argument. And that's something that I learned like a lot, because I would lose and I would think that I had the right argument or I had the best argument in the round. But if the judge didn't think that, then I would lose, and it didn't matter what I thought. And that's my biggest takeaway in terms of when you lose and what to do about it. I think what that means is trying to make it so that your judge wants to help you, argue for your point as well, make it as intuitive as possible. So not just explaining an argument that you understand, but also making them make it intuitive. In terms of like some strategies to practice, because I think that's, like very like reasonable or like applicable things that you guys can do. I have a couple things. They're not written on here. I'll just list them off. So the first thing, like all debaters have talked about before me, I think you need to practice a lot. So like I talked about, debate is a topic where you have like a bunch of different motions and then they repeat content over and over again. But what that means is that it's really broad and there's a lot of things you need to know. In BP especially, you get 15 minutes to prepare. So you really don't have a lot of time to be coming up with new content. I think for me, the most important thing was when I practiced a lot, I could immediately remember or immediately know what kind of arguments I should be making. And that's why practicing is really important. So the more you practice on a certain topic like economics, the easier it is for you to come to the conclusion of how to explain monopolies are bad, or like labor economics or developmental economics. So that's why practicing is really important. I think the second thing is that I actually think that a lot of good debaters have tendencies that are pretty easily replicatable if you try to do it. And one thing that helped me a lot was watching videos. So when I first began debating, I did a lot of BP debate, and then I switched to Worlds, and Worlds was very different in terms of the style and the structure of your speech, because you had more time to prepare. You also had different things you should add into those speeches, and I was kind of lost on what to do. I think the thing that I did the most, and I know a lot of debaters love doing this, is that if you go and look for videos of like previous speeches, there's so many that are recorded online, especially from WSDC. They record them every year. I think that is like probably the best like resource to use to try to initially, when you're beginning, to try to imitate somebody else that is really, really good. You'll see commonalities like the way they structure their speech, or the certain different kinds of like ways they do their introduction. So I remember I would literally watch the Team Canada like WSDC online rounds like over and over again until I almost memorized exactly what parts of their speech they were doing what and why they were doing certain things. And I think that's really, really important in helping you understand like how to I guess like learn debate when you're beginning. And that takes a lot of time as well. So I think with all of that combined, the most important thing is lastly, just like tournament experience. I learned most of the things I know in debate at tournaments because tournaments are really, really competitive. And like when you lose a round in practice or in class or against your friends, you're like, oh, whatever, like it's just a class. But if you lose at a tournament, I think that like hurts a little bit more. Like, like I really want to win that. And that's when you're most critical and when you're most willing to listen to the judge, when you're really critically thinking about your feedback. So I think, what was it, 2 summers ago, me and Jerry, we went to like 10 tournaments over the summer, or at least I went to 10 tournaments. You might have come with me to like 8 of them, but like that was like every single weekend. So it was a lot of tournaments to do, and I think through that time you improve really, really quickly. Another like thing actually just that I thought of is that when you're debating, like I like to record myself. So I have like probably like 400, 500 recordings from like just like the beginning of or the beginning of the year in grade 10. So I don't remember what year that was, 2023, all the way until like 2024. So like throughout that year, I recorded every single practice speech I did. And I didn't listen to them like over and over again. What I did was I listened to them right after I gave my speech. So I would give my speech and then I would really listen to my speech, because I think in that moment, right after you've just said everything you've said, you tend to, like a lot of people will be like, I gave my speech and now I'm done. I'm going to sit down and not think about it. But if you just continue to think about what you were saying for another 10 or 20 minutes, that's when you're most like thinking about the content the hardest, or thinking about what you said the hardest. And if you can just re-listen to different parts of your speech, you'll notice different things that you never would have noticed if you hadn't done that. So for example, like there's things that you don't notice about really good debaters in their introductions or in the way they structure their speech, or like even the transition words they use. And like some people have tics, they'll like to use certain words all the time. You don't notice those things because you're on stage and you're speaking, and it's like, you're like nervous and they happen. But if you go back and listen critically, maybe once or twice immediately after you speak, you begin to notice those things. And that's when you can identify those errors. Then you spend lots of time practicing. Overall, I think debate was really fun. It was something that I really enjoyed, debating with a lot of different people. It does take a lot of time, but I think given that I've only been debating for like maybe like really, really competitively for like, like around 2 years, probably, I do think it's something that, it is possible to, improve. So even if you don't do that well, stay motivated and you guys will win. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
谢谢 Andy 啊，这小伙儿也是看着长大的啊。我大概认识你的时候，你5年级，就是我女儿上大学那年拿到上大学之前就拿到了康奈尔早申之后，在家里教了一些小朋友辩论，就是像启蒙老师一样。Andy 是其中的一个 ，Rebecca 对啊，我女儿当时教了大概40个孩子吧，现在大概有一半都去了美本名校。不是我女儿一个人的功劳啊，绝对不是。我就是想说，真的是家长重视教育啊，那一批家长非常非常重视教育啊，一大批孩子都成长起来了。所以我认识 Andy 的时候，他还是特淘气啊。我女儿讲课的时候，他总捣乱啊。你看现在世界冠军了啊 ，Andy 对我们这个 Debate Club 做出的贡献是最大的啊，其他人不要有任何意见。他做出的贡献是最大的，那当然他家离得近啊，其他人不像他这么方便，但这也不是借口啊有近的有成就很高的根本就不来啊，所以呢他是很少请假，出勤率最高的一个 leader 和 judge， 他请假的时候我就知道他肯定是有事儿，他但凡能够安排好自己的时间，他就跑过来啊。IB White Oaks IB 学业也很紧张啊，但是他对这件事情充满了热爱，唯有热爱能顶得住这个怎么说？严寒酷暑，真的是热爱，非常热爱这件事情啊，而且特别愿意为孩子们做这个点评。他的点评我有听过啊，特别的认真，特别认真。我想我们的 Linda Key 的这一批年轻更小一点的这一批 debater 真的是 benefit a lot from 这些个大 judge， 安东尼刚才也有提到，对吧？刚来的时候3级就是在 Rebecca 还有 Andy、Jerry 去年来了好多次，今年好像有点忙了下半学期争取多来几次 ，OK， 真的是他们做出了巨大的贡献。另外所有的 speaker 都谈到了，差不多都谈到了一点，就是一定要多练习，多参加比赛，不要害怕啊。所以说呢，这个如果有这种比赛的机会呀，轻易不要错过啊。我再来一个植入广告，马上这个 C 的比赛报名结束了 ，Western WDC 报名结束了，接下来就是 Hard House。Hard House 就在家门口，多伦多大学这么近又不用坐飞机，又不用住宾馆 ，Why not？ 有些人 complain 说我自己去那个便宜，你们那个charge的费用高一点，高是有高的道理的，因为大学所有的辩论赛都要 charge institution missing judge fee， 多大的这个 hard house missing judge fee charge的特别贵是 missing 一个 judge charge 我们150加元n 减2乘以150，我送10个人去，光 judge 费就是8乘150，就是1200块钱。你 individual 报名他就不charge你，只要是 institution 送过去的他就charge你。那为什么我们还要送这么多人去？因为我是一个 team 我们有 onsite coach 2天我们这次大概要派1到2个最高级别的 coach， 另一个最高级别的 coach 去现场做 onsite coach 跟随你们进到教室里，当场就听你们的这个 debating 然后在等待大赛的评委做 judging的时候呢，我们的 coach 就在走廊里及时的给你反馈，然后你就可以把这些个东西用到你的下一个 round 里面去我们能够做到这一点。我们还有2天全天的 onsite 的 supervision 和后勤如果没有特殊情况就是我本人，如果我有特殊情况就是校长如果你们信得过我们，就跟着我们一块儿去打比赛Hard House 正在报名当中，19号我就要付钱了。19号之前你不报名，对不起，你赶不上这一波另外，哈佛 WSDC 4月份，4月5号到6号去年哈佛的 WSDC 的2位冠军就这2位，就在这坐着Debate Club 来跟他们练习，然后到哈佛去打比赛，正在报名当中哈佛比赛的这2个比赛的。这都在我们的系统里面开放了，去到 portal 里面给孩子报名。好了，我们接下来还有一点时间我们的8位 speakers 可以接受大家的问题。那校长控制一下线上线下的可以先问，然后线上问题出来了，我们再回答线上。接下来就是 Q&A， 然后现在是几点？9点06，我们给10分钟吧。10分钟10到15分钟吧，所以大家抓紧时间。现在我们这个线下的现场有人提问题吗？你可以说我这个问题提给谁，如果是 general 的，那就他们自愿来回答。线上的问题可以就放在那个 chatting 那个里面。听了8个人的演讲，大家哪怕你有什么感想也可以。我们这儿来了好多，过来 Judy 到前面来，线上能看的。我们这有好多经常参加 club 活动的孩子今天来了。来，你有什么问题想问给谁？
有一个小小的感想想跟大家分享一下我就觉得呢，因为我今年上10年级嘛 ，debate 呢也只是1年多一些，成就相比我们8个 leader、8个评委来讲，就小的这个都不用提了。所以我觉得呢，你们给我很大的这个 inspiration 吧，你让我觉得呢，我也可以变得和你们一样优秀。通过这个练习，通过努力，通过和我的 darling partner Tiana 一起参加比赛，可以以后这个辩论水平提高。我觉得呢，每次来这个 Linky 的 Debate Club 呢，我也会觉得哇哦，我可以喝苹果汁儿，然后在喝苹果汁儿的时候呢，talk about politics， 跟我的 partner 在一起。也要非常感谢潘老师，还有当然所有的评委给我们创造这么好的条件，每次可以练习练习。你像这个有的时候我会比较忙嘛，有这个学校的什么的，我实在没有办法来。可是呢，每次尤其是比赛之前，我都知道一定要来，就很重要嘛。所以说，谢谢 8位评委 leaders 给我这么好这个 inspiration，每次给我这个 feedback 我都很珍惜，也谢谢潘老师。
哦，这孩子真会说话哟！谢谢朱迪，对他个子高高的，他只有10年级啊，谢谢你啊。线上有问题吗，校长？啊，还有别人想说点什么，问一些问题吗？还有吗？线下的，怎么这么安静？都是 debater 啊 ，Come on 啊，不用我点名了吧？那个最后排那小伙儿，啊，现场还来了几位家长，家长有问题吗？线上也没有啊？诶，都是夸我们的。哎呦，哎，来，
就是 on average，就是这些，
你冲着这个
这些
说
小朋友他那每周就是花多长时间，就是在 debate 时间上，你想知道？
你们每个星期要平均花多少时间在 debate 这个事情上？每个人说一句，我拿着，你大概多少时间？
加上打比赛。
对，
加上打比赛，average，
比赛再加上练习，
不算打比赛，就自己在家里面，比如说准备啊、练习啊。安迪说是10到20个小时，你 Jerry？
嗨，今年没有很多，因为更忙了。但是我觉得，最忙的时间做辩论最忙的时间，11年级的第2学期，每个周最少10个小时吧。
最忙的时候最少10个小时。你几个小时
Right now it's like 10 to 12, but back when I was like really trying to improve, I definitely debated almost like 30 hours a week.
哇哦，
Like a lot of
现在是12个小时，他就是进步最快那一年，他1个星期要花30个小时在这个事情上。
我现在辩论的时间不是那么多，但是我以前就小时候应该也差不多是10个小时。我现在就是每周一次3个点去上 Linky 的 WSDC 的课。
最忙的时候十几个小时。
最忙的时候也是10到12个小时，现在才是2个小时吧。
OK， 最忙的时候10到12个小时。
我不是很 consistent，但是我就是想辩论的时候，我就会就那种 binge watch 那种 seminar，就每天就一直看，然后每个星期都看，但是可能过一下这个阵子，可能又会停一下，然后呢又就是一个这样的 cycle 吧。
有的时候是天天看啊，有不忙的时候呢就少一点，忙的时候天天都看 seminar。
对，我觉得也是，最忙的时候差不多有10到15个小时吧。
10到15。
我也是差不多10到12个小时，忙的时候。
看来 common 的时间就是每个星期10到15个小时这个样子。线上有问题吗？
线上问题都是夸咱俩的，说对，都是夸我们的，说我们。
我还想问一下，就是要从 Level 3到 Level 4，然后在 Linky 要学习的话，就是需要多长时间？一般的情况下，
这我来说吧，
问题是从 Level 3到 Level 4要学习多长时间
？It depends， 这个其实是挺因人而异的，就是有的孩子，就是看你花多少时间了。你像安东尼花30个小时，我们是有学生是有跳级的。我们曾经有一个女孩子从2级直接跳到4级，跳到5级的。就你这个时间如果花到的话，你可能都不用1个学期就上去了。但是你说我每个星期就来这上一次课，一次课大概就2个小时，我回家我也不做什么，那可能就不知道了。所以这个就是说，跟你花的时间，包括跟你真正的 engage， 你有多么 engage 是有关系的。但通常来讲，1个学期2个学期吧，差不多啊。快的话1个学期，慢的话2个学期，4个月了。我们的1个学期都是4个月。
他来接他妹妹， 但是我介绍一下，这个是 Eric Ridge 考到康奈尔大学的学生，还记得吗？给我们做过同行讲座啊。康奈尔大学建筑学院的，你跟他走吗 ，Jill？ 还是等一下？可以走啊。那你进坐一下。哦，OK。放假了，他放假来接妹妹，所以我们 Linky 这边都是姐姐毕业了，妹妹来，然后家里还有一个弟弟是吧？对。
你们要想问康奈尔，赶紧问。
下次我们去康奈尔校园找你，啊，一定得做点贡献。还有问题吗？
康奈尔那个 University， 你们的成绩机会难得，机会难得。你们成绩是给分呢，还只是说 pass 还 fail 那种？
你俩单聊。我们今天是关于 Debate Club 的比赛，他聊上康奈尔了。嗯。哎，朱迪还有一个问题。
Guys, what's your favorite thing about debate? Like, if you have to say one thing, maybe one moment, experience, like one aspect, skill, what's your favorite thing about debate? 就是关于 debate 最喜欢的一件事儿，可能是一个过程，可能是一次比赛，可能是一项技能，是什么？
我就不问每一个人了，谁想回答这个问题？关于 debate， 你最喜欢的一件事情是什么？就你们巴拉巴拉讲了那么多。
Your favorite one thing or the most memorable moment?
Judy， 这是一个很好的问题，谢谢你问我了。如果我说实话的话，每次比完赛，在一个比赛，很多人都会去吃饭，结束之后，每次我们都会吃韩国烤肉，我很喜欢。
别人想 share 一下你们最 favorite 的事情吗？还有谁想 share 你们最 favorite 的事情关于 debating？
OK， 没有我们就往下了，因为这个线上还是有几个问题，我们来回一下啊。前面那个我觉得说的挺好，每个孩子都跟为了用心的谈了一场恋爱，我觉得说的很好，
很有意思。
对，
也特别繁忙，怎么平衡课业和 debating？ IB 的学生答一下吧 ，IB 更忙一些。你来说，你不说。
就是 like apart from studying, all I did was debate. So I just debated a bunch. Like I went home and I would just like debate, and then after debating, I would take my class or whatever, or like do homework, and then I'd go back to like debating. So that's all I did. You have to spend a lot of time. Like it does take a lot of time.
IB， 这都是 IB。
Okay, so I'm in IB, but I'm only like grade 11. But last year I definitely like only did debate after school. The entire summer break I was just watching videos and stuff and all that. So yeah, 30 hours a week came from that. So yeah, to really balance it though, it's like figure out what your limit is and staying below that. I don't want you to burn out, right? Like the worst thing possible is to like stop liking debate, and at that point you're gonna not succeed. It's ultimately the passion that I was talking about, and I think that finding your own balance is a part of learning how to get good at debate.
Okay, so I am not as studious when it comes to debate as some of the people here. I do IB, and then I also have like a lot of other clubs I run at my school. So when it came to balancing it out, I took classes basically once, maybe twice a week to really structure it, because I knew that the type of person I am is that I would need to have that structured time to make sure someone was like, Rebecca, you need to practice debate this week. And I'd be like, fine, I'll go to class and I'll practice there. And then what I would do is I would just be really intentional in that class and just make sure that like those 2 hours were very well spent, much more than me just like meandering around trying to like kind of practice like in my spare time. But then once again, like when I said in my presentation, like I think debate has a lot of transferable skills. So I never stopped reading. So I feel like that also was just helping me out whether or not I called it debate practice. Cool.
好，谢谢。下面有一个说，有一位 debater 提到他也会倒时差，参加一些亚太的比赛。请问有什么推荐的赛事？日夜颠倒，付出这么大的代价，参加比赛是否觉得值得？谁提到了？谁提到了？啊 ，Jerry， 你听懂这个问题了吗？
简单，我
那给他 translate 一下。
So just talk about Indo-Pacific. Give them the experience. 我觉得翻译的不是overnight tournaments.
You mentioned you attend the tournament in Asian, and you have the jacket. Is it necessary or very worthy to doing this?
谢谢你问这个问题。
You can
从
talk in English.
我可以从我的角度，我觉得去这个比赛很值得。你的孩子肯定不需要去这种比赛，因为确实时差是一个问题。但我在那个时间很热爱辩论，所以我会找一些其他的朋友也很热爱的辩论来我们的家，喝很多咖啡，还有喝很多红牛。就我们会在半夜在辩论之后。如果我要告诉你孩子，我会建议他们试一次吧，肯定不需要做这种的事儿，但我觉得是一个很好的记忆。我现在还能怀念想到那个时间，就我觉得是一个很好的经验。
谢谢，非常感谢。下一个问题说，如果打比赛，如何安排和平衡你的学习时间？这个是不是刚才大家有提到？已经说过了是吧？然后请问孩子们将来的专业方向是什么？与 debate 直接或间接相关吗？我看见那个安东尼使劲摇头。我知道这里有人要读econ 经济学，还有人要读 political science， 对吧？Sunny 要说吗 ？Sunny 因为就是你上 What's your major？I think the parents' points is it necessary your future major has to be related to debating, something like that?
其实我major 现在是 undecided，但是I'm really interested in economics 和 political science 和 public policy。我觉得我就是练习 debate，就是学了更多关于这些 topics。Like obviously 你不用choose your major based on debate. Like 我有很多 debate 的 friends 就学什么设计或者一个 completely unrelated 的东西，因为 again debate 给你的 like skills you can basically like apply it anywhere to like interviews or anything else. But for me, I think debate like really opened like my eyes to like a lot of these topics that actually piqued my interest more. So I think it did help a lot and it was related for me.
我知道的是，大部分学 debating 的孩子，一半多一点是学商科呀、人文类呀多一点少数有学理工科我女儿是个例子，我女儿是个工程师，她就是 Wild Oaks Debate Club 的 VP， 曾经是 McGill 比赛 finalist，Ontario 比赛 team the second team， 她就是个工程师，但是这种情况不是很多，但是她 benefit from 她会 debating， 是因为她是工程师里边最比较会说的，所以她 benefit 了很多。有很多工程师不太善于去表达那如果你在这个行业里面是比较能够表达，沟通能力比较强，你真的 benefit a lot overall 来讲学商科、学经济学、学人文类的多一点学理工科的少一点，这是我的统计。下面这个就是说，孩子们都有提到 debate 的进步是 fluctuated 的进步的过程。这几个孩子中有没有在这个过程中想放弃？让你们坚持下去最重要的动力是什么？自愿回答就好。别听懂了吗？谁想回答一下？有没有人想放弃，但是又坚持下去了
？Yeah. I'm not answering Chinese, I'm sorry. But there was a time where I really didn't want to keep doing debate anymore because like I said, I didn't enjoy it anymore. I didn't really enjoy going to tournaments. I didn't really I thought it was kind of toxic for me. So I did end up at least taking a break. But then I found that for me personally, I actually really did enjoy debate. I thought I was ending up really passionate about it. So I think that it's okay to take a break, but I definitely did go back because you build so many connections. I had friends who were still like, hey, can we like partner sometime? I know you haven't debated in a while and things like that. And then just kind of remembering back to why I first started in the first place. So reminding yourself like, why did you start debate in the first place? Why did you continue in the first place? Like, who are those people that you met? And like, what are those really fantastic memories that you had would bring you back in? And I think that's really important, but it's also totally fine to take a break if you need to.
好，是不是没有了？后面没有了，没有了，没有了，那我们就到这儿吧。啊，非常感谢，非常感谢，感谢我们的8位 speaker， 感谢线上的最高峰57个家庭啊，100多人，一般都是家长和孩子啊。那个你们如果想继续的面对面的跟这些。哎呦，好，校长又提醒我了，你们想继续跟他们有接触，参加我们 Debate Club 啊。另外，下个星期二我们在北约克校区有一场关于人文类的活动竞赛的详解，而且我们请到了加拿大这个 Public Speaking 的冠军，为我们现场分享他的经验、他的成长过程，为我们现场做他的冠军演讲，是 UTS 一个11年级的女孩。叫艾玛，所以我就提前再提醒大家一下，下个星期二在北约课也可以约线上那好，那我们今天就到这里，感谢大家来参与，祝大家晚安，谢谢 everybody。